Welcome, everybody, to the second hour of MindShifters Radio. Today is Tuesday, August the 31st, 2021. It's hard to believe that the month is over. And our dial-in number, 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you in the queue to talk to us. And we'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. Delighted and honored that we get to continue this conversation. And I'm going to just jump right into page 105 of the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? I'm going to cover a couple of chapters before we open the phone lines and move forward into the process part of the show. So we're talking to the character, Richard, about the topic that the body has a mind of its own. And the basic bottom line of this chapter is that information stored in our structure, when resonated, makes its appearance as thinking. But in fact, it's just information resonating in the mind. Thinking implies a conscious actor. If I say, don't think about the color of your car, the movement in your storage system, your body's mind, is simply a response through resonance to that particular frequency. Nothing to do with thinking. It's not until we activate the true human mind, which is connected to the truth of who we are as love, human life really starts to show up. So we've been having that conversation with Richard, and he's starting to see the roots of violence within his own life and within the culture. So we finished the last session with a key thought from page 105 in this chapter. The mind is only capable of responding with whatever has been programmed into it. We can dismantle the realities that do not serve us by learning to forgive. Richard looked shocked. This explains a lot of the violence and crime in our world. There's a saying that goes something like, it takes a whole community to raise a child. It sounds to me like every interaction with the whole community has an influence in building each child's realities. That is an awesome responsibility. And I replied, Richard, yes, it is. The power that an individual or the media has in the way it presents and models behavior can make a difference between between shifting an internal reality from fantasy, a non-behavior driving reality, to one that gets acted out by a person, a behavior driving reality. I believe that media, news, and public personalities have a tremendous influence and a great deal of responsibility for what is happening, especially in our young people. And you look today at the quantity of viciousness and violence in the political dialogue and the increase in violence throughout our world, and you start to say to yourself, maybe it makes a difference, the moral character, the vocabulary, the language, and the perceptual constructs of the people who stand out as authorities in our world, to how our children come up watching those authorities. You know, it's kind of hard to miss the whole media characterization of political figures and business figures. And time for us to wake up to how our bodies' minds have been structured, and if structured out of hostility or fear, that it's important to begin to dismantle those hostility and fear-based perceptual constructs if one is ever going to be a truly contributing member of the civilization, of the society. And so our objective with this work is to invite people to look at quality of the content of their body's mind, and is it a quality of content when it ends up becoming a perceptual construct in the mind that really supports generating and creating, nurturing, caring, long-lasting relationships, a nurturing, caring society that can sustain itself in sanity and function. And so, looking at the fact that a mind connected to active present love is a mind that truly can express human life, and one that's disconnected from conscious active present love, one that's linked to, that's buried in, mired in words and behaviors based in hostility or fear, tends to lead to the destruction of our human civilization, the destruction of the family, the destruction of relationships. You look at the fact that, we're at a over 50% divorce rate in our culture. What's happened? I offer that the degradation of language is one of the keys, and restoring ourselves to that connection to love becomes part of the solution, individually and collectively. And so that's our reading for today. And Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
It is all quiet. No questions, no hands. So press 1.
So if you're out there in listener land, we would love to have a conversation with you. What directions can our show go today that would serve you? I thought yesterday's conversation was really quite awesome. Thank you, Michelle, for your willingness to participate and open the space for that conversation. I think the opening was profoundly powerful. And I would love somebody who's out there listening to put a hand up and lead us in a direction that will open another powerful conversation around the use of the tools. Oh, awesome. Let's say hello.
I believe it's Miss Magda, 828. You're on the air.
Hello. It is Magda.
Nice to hear your voice. How are you?
Thank you. Wonderful. And you guys are wonderful as well.
We're rocking, yes.
Good. So I think this is going to be a very short conversation. I just wanted to double check with you on my thinking about something. I think I've got it, the way it should be. But who knows? There might be room for improvement. So it's a simple understanding that I have now that all of my actions, all of my behavior is the result of my beliefs. That if I believe something is good for me and I deserve to have things that are good for me, I will do that. If I believe something is good for me, but I don't really deserve to be happy or have something good for me, that I will then not do it, even though I think I want to. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. That's all. I just wanted a confirmation that I'm on the right track there. It seems so very basic to me.
Tell me more about your whole thinking process around this. I didn't really quite get the question.
Oh, okay. So I have noticed after all these long years of being on the planet that I very often make goals for myself because I know that they would either create joy in my life or health in my life or peace. And so they're wonderful goals, and I really do want to accomplish them. But over and over, I find that there are some of those goals that I find ways to procrastinate or even forget about them. And so it's been a quandary when I've been doing worksheets, like, why? This is hopeless. Why is this happening? Why do I keep doing the same thing? who is it that you quote, I think from the Bible, that why is it I don't do the things, or
the things I would do, I
don't.
cannot do? That's Paul.
That's it.
Why is it the things I would do, I cannot do, and the things that I hate, I do?
That's it. Yep, that's it. And so I finally had this realization that, oh my goodness, there's a reason why I am not. There's some sort of belief, and just put the question out: what is that I believe? And it came down to there's something wrong with me, and therefore I really don't deserve happiness or health or peace. There's something wrong. It's that whole deserving thing again. And then the next question was, well, what is wrong with me? And this one is really circular. What's wrong with me is that I'm not perfect. And therefore I don't deserve. Now it's even more circular. I don't have my notes here. I am not a perfect product of source. And therefore, I'm not perfect. And because I'm not perfect, I don't deserve all these good things. So it just goes around in circles, a lot of circles.
And,
oh, I got, yeah.
And those conclusions you reach because you find yourself procrastinating on things you think are good for you?
The conclusions about not being perfect. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
No. I think that my belief that I'm not perfect has been hanging around with me for a long time. And it's something that my child mind somehow inferred or learned from probably the Catholic religion more than anything else. And then accelerated by my family, with fault finding and such, having faults found in me. So, but yeah, that thing about being perfect, it's this whole thing about original sin and this sin and that sin, and yeah, so that's old, and I've just carried it with me, and it's been operating to a large extent with the things that, again, I choose to do for myself. I want to do for myself, and yet somehow I don't. So why would that be?
Well,
Can I read?
Go ahead, Jeannie.
I just looked up that scripture so I could put it in the notes, and actually the verses that follow it are pretty cool and sort of answer that. This is the NIV version that says, I don't understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do. And what I hate, I do. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. As it is no longer I myself who do it, but it's the sin living in me. And remember, sin is energies that are off the mark. So it is the beliefs and the thoughts that are off the mark that are living within you that's keeping you from doing what you want to do.
Got it. Oh, thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fuller picture. So it's the sin. It's like the devil made me do it. That sort of excuse.
Right.
Yeah.
Except,
being off the
if
mark,
you look at the word sin to the energy that's off the mark that we carry in us, which is the beliefs of I'm not good enough, or I can't do it, or I don't deserve it, or whatever.
And isn't in Aramaic Satan, or what we call the devil, really the resistor? Am I remembering that correctly?
In Aramaic, it's the resistor, one who misleads.
There you go.
You look at the average person, let's say when they're asked to be responsible for what's going on in their lives, the first thing most people do is go into resistance, and then their mind serves up a whole story about how it's my fault or their fault, or a whole mislead rather than correction. And when we move toward correction, then something different happens. And there's why the tools come in for the removal of those energies that are off the mark. But let me throw in a different piece about about procrastination. I was just recently listening to a psychologist who was doing research on original thinkers. And you may find that if you befriend your procrastination just a little bit more, it's one of the characteristics of original thinkers. And it gives them, according to this psychologist, I'll see if I can find the link and send it to you, it gives them the opportunity to do some creative thinking where other people rush in and got to get it all done. He's saying the procrastinator actually gets to do some original thinking around things and recreate their lives or make a more profound impact in the world because of their procrastination, as long as the procrastination doesn't become extreme.
Right. I have experienced that where I've been actually happy that I procrastinated. The first example of this that I can remember was in college, and we had been given a schedule with our the timelines of our class and the due date of a certain paper. And I really put it off quite a long time until what interestingly happened is that I got to class one day and I was really, really worried because the deadline was coming and I hadn't even begun. I was just letting it float around in my mind, right? And there were other people in the class who said, oh, yeah, I'm finished with that. I'm ready to hand it in. And the teacher came in, professor, whatever it was, and said, well, I've changed that. I want you to do this and this instead of that topic. It's like, really? Oh, that's neat. And all these other people had done so much work, and it wasn't useful for them in the end in terms of this class. And I've seen that happen over time where my procrastination has been just right. However, I'm not experiencing this the same way, Michael. What I'm talking about is not really sitting in with having more time to think about it. Because when I think about it, I ruminate about, oh, how horrible. I don't know how to start. It's too much. I'm overwhelmed. And what other thoughts come to mind? I really should, a lot of shoulding, and so therefore a lot of guilt and anxiety. And when I actually do what it is that I've been avoiding, it's not a big deal. It's like, wow, I used all that energy resisting this, and it's fine. Turned out well. It was easier than I thought. So I think those are two different categories for me of procrastination.
Well, and maybe that procrastination gave you the time to come up with the original ideas that otherwise wouldn't have been there. Would make the task, the struggle, and the difficulty. One of the examples he uses in this particular presentation is he talks about Martin Luther King. And in Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, he points out that King was still sitting in the audience waiting to present and writing his speech. And scratching lines out and replacing them as he's listening to others present and he's getting ready to get up there. And the words, "I have a dream," were not in the speech even.
Uh-huh.
They came spontaneously on the platform as he's presenting, because his speech wasn't something he got up and presented. It's something he did as an original creation on the spot. So maybe when you get to that thing that you fretted and frowned over, having perhaps healed some of your fretting and frowning, there was an open channel for original creativity. And of course, after you already, once you had that, it's like, oh, that was easy. So maybe that you might want to look at that and see if that's part of your method of being original and creating, and become a little more accepting and approving of yourself in it.
Yeah. I will look at that. I will notice on purpose. What I'm concerned about, though, is how much anxiety, emotional anxiety, I'm causing myself when I do that procrastination. And I think circulating back to what you just said about perhaps I would have more acceptance. Well, maybe that's what would happen. If I had more acceptance, then I would not create that anxiety. On the other hand, perhaps the anxiety is part of the creative thinking process for me.
How about a mind shifter?
Yeah.
How about a mind shifter?
Let me go to where I can write. Hold on. I have to unplug. I'm in the charger right now. Okay. Oh, yes, mind shifter. One of my favorite tools. Okay. Ready for it.
It's safe, healing, and natural. For me to lovingly, with confidence.
To lovingly,
with confidence.
Confidence.
Embrace and heal all anxiety.
Embrace and heal all anxiety.
As I create.
As I create.
An awesome original life.
An awesome. Awesome. Well, that's interesting. I'm having a hard time writing the word awesome. There. That's
first worksheet.
Yeah. Oh. Wow. Well, that one stirred something.
Because remember that you're not your anxiety, and you're not your fear, and you're not your sadness, you're not your grief, you're not probably hardly anything you've ever been told you are.
Yeah.
You are a being of light and of love.
Okay.
And when you give yourself to time and the space to embrace those other things that you've been told and work through them, yeah, you're probably not getting the task at hand done. So it looks like procrastination, but you're cleaning the junk out of the way. And that's perhaps the more important task.
Say more about cleaning the junk out of the way.
Well, the anxiety as it arises, whatever kinds of things are the inhibitors that come up in your mind, the self-disapproval, the acceptance of self as something less than love, as you work through and clean that up. Most people never think of it. They wake up in the morning, they start their run, they fill their bellies, they drink their caffeine, they take their drugs, they smoke their cigarette, they run off to work, they do their job, they run home from work, they, have their fifth of scotch and fall into bed. And as I observe you, You're living a life of conscious awareness, doing your work, cleaning up what doesn't work in your life, and always moving toward embracing something greater. I mean, to me, that's pretty profound when you look at the average person in your age range in America today. I think that's pretty profound.
That's good to have that mirror. Thank you so much.
I've watched you struggle over and work to deal with things that most people, when those things present in their lives, turn tail, run the other way, will do anything to not face them or deal with them.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, well, I firmly believe, I guess I have since I was a little kiddo, definitely in my teenage years and beyond, that the reason I'm on this planet is to learn how to be loved. And I used to say I wanted to learn how to love and be loved, but later learned, I just need to learn how to be loved, to live in love.
Oh.
So, I guess that was my intention this time around.
Now, if we take a look at, what passes for life in the world, that's probably one of the greatest childhood gifts that you got from your religion of origin.
Yeah.
In a world that, think about, we have 25% of the world's prisoners in a country that has 5% of the world's population.
Mm-hmm.
What are people doing to have to do that?
Mm-hmm.
We live in a world that, in the years you've been on the planet, we've killed about 150 to 175 million people in war. And this country's been responsible financially and militarily for a great deal of that. What have people been doing? And notice that you've been moving in a majorly different direction than the herd, and doing some self-introspection and dealing with things. And, you're probably one of the early adopters. You probably didn't watch your parents or your uncles or your aunts or the people around you or the neighbors around you doing that.
True.
You probably watched most of them doing what the culture's doing.
Yep. Yeah.
And so that's pretty profound.
So I'm spending a lot of my time and energy to undo what they taught me, so I can move further into my own being, my own loveness. I just flipped the page here, and I see that at the end of the last worksheet I did on this issue of deserving, I just reread the goal, and the goal is, it's a goal and a statement. I offer you, my neighbor, myself, who is myself, my continued reminding that you do deserve to make and carry out healthy, happy, and peaceful choices every day, because you are on the list, the love list. That's why you're here, because you are love, you are love itself, and you don't need any other reasons. So I've been reading that every day. It's my intention to read that for a month.
So let's just take a minute. Let's look at that thought, and then let's take a minute and look at, let's say, the characters that appear on the nightly news. The political leaders, the governors, the general people who show up there, how deeply do you suppose any one of them that you've seen show up there in the last year could sit down and have that kind of an original thought?
Not too many. It's true. Yeah.
So methinks perhaps it might be time, as you look at that thought that you just came up with, to apply it to yourself and be a little more gentle with yourself. And it might be a place to start to look at, this might be a place to dig out the Power Person worksheet and do a Power Person worksheet around this issue and the way you're treating yourself as you hold that goal to treat others certainly a lot more gently. And maybe it's time to free yourself of that the propensity to move in the direction of the way your Power Person thought of you and treated you.
Right. I agree with that. I don't know if I made it clear when I read that goal that it was to me. It wasn't to anybody else. Yeah, you got that. Yeah, but I think that's a really good idea, the Power Person, the critical person, critical persons. And as a child, I took that on to be truth. And so that's what I've been carrying around. So, yeah.
So it sounds like the goal that you set, that you just read to us from that last worksheet, is the mind shifter that has brought all this process up for you.
I'm not sure if it was from a mind shifter. Could have been.
Well, no, I mean, you perhaps haven't written that as a mind shifter, but in fact, it sounds to me like a perfect mind shifter that would bring up everything, especially when you're thinking of that about yourself, that would bring up everything unlike that, which of course is the purpose of a mind shifter.
Oh, yeah. So am I hearing you say use this as a mind shifter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And
it kind of sounds like it's sort of unconsciously been functioning as a mind shifter, and that's why you're processing this stuff about yourself and quote unquote what's not right about you.
Right. What is wrong with me anyway? Yeah. What I really
so would you read that? Would you read that goal again?
Sure. Let me just say this before I lose it, while I still have it.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? What I did experience before I got to this part of the worksheet was that, oh man, I really want to get that back. When I got to, okay, so I believe that I'm less than perfect, so that makes me imperfect, and because I'm not perfect, I don't deserve that circle. And I felt helpless and hopeless at that point, and I wrote, boy, I can't do anything about that but go around and around in those circular beliefs and stay stuck in the hole. So what can I do? Perhaps I can get a dispensation. It was kind of funny because dispensation is a Catholic term. I can get a dispensation, an exception, an exclusionary clause that lets little Margaret, a.k.a. Magda, giving her special permission to be perfectly healthy, peaceful, and joyous, even though she is not perfect, even though she is just human. And and out of that, grew this final offering, this goal. So should I read that now?
Please.
Okay. I offer you, my neighbor, which is me, my continual reminding that you do deserve to make and carry out healthy, happy, and peaceful choices every day because you are on the list. And the list is the one with the dispensation. And that is the loved list. This is why you're here, because you are loved. You are love itself. And you don't need any other reason to be deserving.
I'll breathe with you on that.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful thought that has put you into a circular process that carbon-based memory. You know, we were just talking about the from why is this happening to me again? The body has a mind of its own. So here's the mind coming up with its circular reasoning. Well, but you can't have that because you're not perfect. Like, okay, so now what I know is I can have that because I'm not perfect.
Yeah, right.
It's okay for me to have that, even though I'm not perfect.
Yep. Yeah, this was
sometimes have. Say again?
Say again. You go ahead.
So it sounds like you're right on track for the next layer of moving out the confusion of the mind, the body's mind.
Yeah.
And how many generations do you suppose that thinking has gone on?
Oh, my goodness. Yes. A couple.
Yeah.
A couple. This was a very powerful worksheet, and I know it's the culmination of many other MindShifters and worksheets that I've done to get to this point. So, that's why I'm reading it every day. I really want my brain to get that. Yeah.
Yeah, you deserve to experience yourself as love just because the Creator put the breath of life in you, and that's who you are. Whatever all the other stuff is, just all the other stuff. The cultural, the family stuff, it's just stuff.
Right.
Like, you got to stop believing that crap.
And this is truly, I've heard those words before, I've said those words before. This is truly, I believe, the first time that I really understand and embrace the meaning. You know, you deserve love just because the Creator put the breath of life in you.
Yeah, the Creator didn't put any of the Creator didn't put any of the conditions in the way that your parents did, or your sister, or your brother, or your next door neighbor, or your teacher, or your boyfriend, or your girlfriend, or your didn't put any of those conditions in the way. You are that just because you are that. And actually, you know, we use this language we've been brainwashed with. Well, the excuse, well, I'm only human. Well, actually, if we're only functioning as humans, we'd be functioning as love. Period. It's that we have a non-human component that holds all that other garbage.
Right.
And that's the non-human component that needs to be removed. The messages that are insane in the context of recognizing that we are beings created out of the active presence of love. It's who we are. And we've been taught to forget and blow it off and you know, cover it up with everything.
I was just thinking of how much in my life I have interacted with adults and children when I was a teacher and a social worker, and what I have here in this goal for me to understand that I don't need to be perfect in order to be loved. I have said that in one way or another to multitudes of others. So all I have to do now is learn to apply it to myself, that I deserve as much as anyone else. Go ahead, Michael.
We teach best that which we most need to learn, don't we?
Yeah. Yep, indeed. Oh, well, I'm feeling very, very full and excited, Michael, about moving forward in acceptance, with acceptance. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Jeannie.
Well, we know the truth is that you're human, and therefore you are love. You are made of mercy, that all-embracing love is gracious and civil and functions out of that. That's who you are. And the rest of it, silly messages from the past.
Silly is a very good word. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you
So I
much.
support you being able to just totally and completely embrace yourself in that and let go of all the conditions that the world has taught you.
And have some gratitude to the Catholic Church for some of the early things I learned, some of which were very, very fundamentally good and good for me. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of brain cells built, and it just takes some rewiring to correct the errant messages that came with some of those basic brain cells.
That's a good way to look at it. It's kind of like deleting the word in the sentence that really didn't belong.
Exactly.
Okay. Well,
nice work, young lady.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving that gift to all of us to get that, to review that.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you for not letting me off the hook, because I was ready to hang up in 2 minutes after we started. And
yeah, there's just going to be a short conversation.
Yeah, right. But you noticed that there was something deeper and the potential for a lot more going on. So your skills are so appreciated. Thank you again. Okay, I'm going to listen. I hope somebody else has benefit of the worthiness to their own beliefs that they deserve to get your assistance right now. And calls pushes number 1.
All right. We appreciate you.
Bless you guys. Thank you.
All right. Delighted to be on your team and to have you on ours.
Indeed. I agree.
All right. Well, Miss Jeannie, any other thoughts for you? Anything happening in the chat room or in the phone queue?
No, it is all quiet. So if someone presses 1, I know the other day there was some conversations going on and several people hit 1 just right, like 5 minutes at the end of the show, and we didn't have time to get to them. So if you are on the switchboard, press 1. Let's get your question now while we've got time.
Yeah, it amazes me sometimes how it runs the clock down for the last 2 minutes, and it's like kind of self-sabotage, Well, I know I could have pressed 1 earlier, but then I'd have gotten into my process, and so I'll just pretend and leave it till the last minute. So if you're out there in listener land, our calling number, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, is 563-999-3581. 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be listening to the show. And then if you push 1, we'll be having a conversation. How can we support you? What's going on in your world? But not everybody pushed the button at once. Let's, King Jeannie, that the other day, or maybe we covered that, there was somebody that had written a question in by email.
Yes, we did talk about that. They were wanting to know a better explanation for Rukadikucha.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. So we got that one covered. Cool. So the primary tool that we're offering here with this work, you've heard me speak about before probably, or if you're new, maybe you haven't, is the tool of actual first century Aramaic forgiveness. And I emphasize the word Aramaic because most of the world has bought into the Greek misinterpretation and misunderstanding of forgiveness. They've bought into the idea, well, you know, it's your fault that I'm in pain, and I'm going to forgive you for the fact that my physiology, my emotions are in pain. Which, of course, if I, quote unquote, forgive somebody else, if I let them off the hook for the fact that internally I'm generating pain, I've done nothing to impact, touch, or change my pain. And, you know, it's just like it's all pervasive. Everywhere you look in this Western world, oh, they'll say, well, it's to benefit you that you forgive them. I'm going to say never, ever, ever forgive anybody for anything. Because the act that the Greeks told us was the act of forgiving is the act of letting them off the hook for what's happening inside of me. And, you know, imagine I was able to set it up so that I stand in front of and have a procession of 7.5 billion people, everybody on the planet go by me, and I shake their hand and I forgive them. Have I taken one iota of action that moves me inside myself to address or remove the cause of my pain? None whatsoever. Now, when I pretend that letting you off the hook for the pain that's inside of me is forgiveness, I can stop inflicting the pain on myself, and it seems like, well, see, that worked. I forgave you. But it wasn't very long. In fact, there's a book about this. It's called Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Before I find somebody else to blame for the fact that my pain generated by me is moving in me. But I'm so skillful at keeping it hidden from myself that when it comes up, I find somebody to associate it with in my mind, and I want to let them off the hook for it. The word forgive in Aramaic is a word that represents a tool with which you go inside yourself, locate the hidden root of your pain, the actual cause of your pain, and remove that pain. So that once you forgive, a whole procession of people could come by and do the thing that would put you, that seemed to be the cause of you being in pain again and again and again and again. A whole procession could show up, but you can't be in pain over it because the capacity to generate that pain is no longer in you. So it's never been anybody else's behavior, action, or words that has caused your pain, but what perhaps others' behavior, action, or words trigger in you with which you cause yourself pain. If that's a new idea for you, then I suggest you go to our website, whyagain.org, and in the upper left-hand corner of the page, there's a link. Click that link. It says Start Here. It'll walk you through all of the technology of first century Aramaic forgiveness. How you collapse perception, access the hidden parts of your mind, and literally remove them, and thus free yourself from pain, whatever somebody else does. You can carry out the forgiveness process live on the website. Again, the website is whyagain.org. You can download the worksheet from the website, print it off on your printer, and do it right there at home. The worksheet, as Magda was just talking about, step by step. Here's how it's done. You can also go to your phone's app store and type in the words Heartland, Heartland, all one word, Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness. When you do that, you'll be looking at the world's only forgiveness app, and it will show you step by step how to go through the process of forgiveness. There are links on the website that will help explain that, and of course, there may be questions that come up as you do that, and the purpose of this radio show is to support you in thoroughly and fully understanding the how, the why, and the skill of carrying out the process of forgiveness. It's not always Dr. Feelgood to do that. It means you're going to get to look at parts of your mind that you've probably hidden from yourself, parts of your life that you've dissociated from. You're going to learn to bring those dissociated parts of your mind forward to awareness. That's not always Dr. Feelgood. And so a major key in the process is to be willing. I'm willing to look at the parts of me that I, my culture, and my family system have denied and hidden from themselves forever. I'm willing. And in that willingness, in giving my mind permission to show me what I've previously denied myself access to, is a major key in the process. Because when you bring the hidden parts of your mind, the deleterious parts of your mind forward in the presence of active love, those parts of the mind being brought forward where love is active and present in you begin to dissolve. The forgiveness process from the first century Aramaic is how to do that. And as you engage the tools, because there are many pitfalls in the mind on that journey, we're here to support you stepping over those pitfalls, or holding your hand as you step over those pitfalls and freeing yourself of the errors of generations and generations and generations. Here you go to that story, ancient story of the Jews being lost in the desert for 40 years. Now you think about, here's a 35 square mile area, a group of people who are quite bright and know a lot about astronomy, who know the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, who know that if they get up in the morning and start following the direction of the rising sun is moving in, that they have to be out of this 35 square mile area pretty quickly. You realize that whole story is not about being lost in a hot, sandy place, that the desert is a code word for being unconscious, for hiding parts of our minds from ourselves and not having access to those parts of our minds. And if you go back and you read that story and understand that it's about being unconscious about the content of your own mind, then you read where the resolution came from, and where the resolution came from was the old generation died off. You realize that the word generation comes from the root genari, which means cause, that the causes in the mind that had not been resolved had to be resolved. It wasn't about old people physically dying. It was about resolving those generational patterns based in self-deprecation, being destroyed by others, in hatred and fear and rage and guilt and grief and greed and condemnation and gossip and slander and vengeance. It was about squarely addressing, and that's not a Dr. Feelgood process, those parts of yourself and removing them. Otherwise, when those parts were triggered into activity, they would come in and take over your mouth, and you'd be doing things that were self-destructive and destructive toward others, going against your own good. How many times in hostility or fear have you said things that afterwards you wish you'd put tape over your mouth and never said them? That's the unconscious coming into activity, being stimulated into activity and taking over your speech. And as long as there's an unconscious there, as long as there's that desert component, then at the most inopportune times, it's going to tend to come to the surface and create another one of those "why is this happening to me again" experiences. We're here to support you getting free of that. We're here to support each mind, heart, and being on the planet having access to the tool of forgiveness, to the skill and the ability to reach in beyond their own unconscious dynamics, address and remove, that is, forgive their own unconscious dynamics, thereby exiting the desert. And when we exit the desert, called that exiting the desert was entering the promised land. What is the promised land? I'd offer it's the state of conscious co-creation of our lives, that everything that we are conscious of, we create from that space of love through those things, and never does something pop out from the unconscious that interrupts that, because we've done the work of addressing and removing those parts of ourselves. So that's what we're here to do. We're appreciative of you lending your ears. And, of course, when we're complete, you can go to our website, again, whyagain.org, hit the microphone and drill down, and you'll find today's show and the last 10 years of shows, thousands of them, that you can download, access free, and make use of. We're honored that you're part of the process. Create the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.